Hello, everybody. It is Calzonius here. I'm gonna do something a little bit differently this time. I've been playing a lot of Rocket League. Last stream, I talked a bit about Worlds and how much I'm looking forward to that. And I decided that I really wanted to make a prediction. I really wanted to do that. I want to start off by shouting out Lawler. Lawler, for making an awesome open bracket that's really easy to use so you can make your own predictions in. Lawler, I really, really appreciate that. Lawler, if you don't know him, he's a caster, guy who's been in the RLCS scene for a really long period of time. If you're looking for a bit more insight into how tournaments are run, if you're looking into insight onto what's coming up next, Lawler is a great source when it comes to news. And just overall a really entertaining and good guy to watch. You can find him on twitch.tv/Lawler, Lawler. He's great. I've been following his content for a long time. And yeah, I really appreciate that he has this set up and is ready for anyone to use. So if you want to make your own predictions, Lawler has this set up on his Twitch. He also has YouTube. I believe it's youtube.com/Lawler. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm gonna start off. We have MIBR. This is if you're not familiar with that name, this is formerly Corinthians Gaming. This is Raise Bull and the gang, came out of the South America LCQ against Gen G. North America, you're talking Justin, Magic Bear, Cheese. I've not gotten much of a chance to watch South American regionals. I will say that I did watch the finals that MIBR was in. I'm gonna be honest. I was not that impressed. I'm super happy to see Raise Bull back in it. Raise Bull has been an awesome player. Super happy to see him in Worlds. I I don't rate them. I don't. I might be a little bit harsh, but I don't. I think that Gen G, with not only their experience but also with the amount of time they spent playing together, and the level of competition, I do think that the level of competition in North America is a step above South America. I am gonna give it to Gen G. I'm gonna give it to Gen G 3-1. Okay, this next one is going to be Rock versus FUT. Rock came out of the MENA LCQ. FUT is I want to say, is the APAC representative. They've been in quite a few regionals. They've been kind of like the APAC team. I gotta say, as compared to the South America final for the LCQ, I watched the MENA LCQ that Rock won, and I gotta tell you, I watched it right after I watched the South American one. You can tell just from watching a little bit of it, it is a level ahead. There are quicker follow-ups, there are quicker plays. The speed that I saw in that MENA LCQ was something else. That is a high level of competition. If you're just looking at it from that perspective, it is impressive. So for Rock to come out of there in that LCQ, I actually really rate them. I really do. Just based off of that. I cannot say that I've been watching just like the South American regionals. I can't say I've been watching the MENA regionals a lot. This is just based off of a eye test from one series that I watched, but I gotta tell you, if they play anywhere close to that competition, I think that Rock is really good. I am going to give FUT their flowers. I think that they have, in regional scenes and in world scenes, I think that they have really stepped up. I think that they have shown some determination and shown some resistance against some of the top teams. But I do think that right now, I think that Rock is is going to beat them. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be 3-2 Rock. All right, next up, we have Shopify Rebellion versus Virtus Pro. Virtus Pro, the Sub-Saharan Africa representative. Shopify Rebellion coming out of the NALCQ. This is an interesting one to me. I really do rate Reddles, especially in regional scenes. I think that he has shown time and time again that he is ready for that. I think that two piece and I think that Wavy are big question marks. And I will say this. I do think that there is some classic jitters in your first regional, your first like world experience. But on top of that, I also care about the level of competition that you've played leading into this. To give you an example of that, a Zen, right? A lot of people were thinking Zen going into like his first regional competition, going into Worlds and going into the majors, that there's going to be some jitters. And I think the reason that didn't happen is because in Europe is, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, Europe is the premier region right now. It is the highest level of competition that you can get. It is a step above every single other region, in my opinion. And I think that lends itself very well to any person that is going into these majors, that is going into Worlds. And I think that takes a lot of pressure away from like your first regional and your first Worlds. So when I look at a Shopify Rebellion, I see a two-piece and a Wavy that have, one, not been to a major, not been to Worlds. And also, to be honest with you, I don't think that North American competition has been... I don't think that they have been close to as good as European competition. And I think that is shown in the most recent World Cup. I think that is also shown in some of the majors. And I think that the lack of experience when it comes to playing against teams across the world, on top of North America not having the level of competition that Europe does, and compare that to a Virtus Pro, a team who, yeah, you can look at from a regional side. SSA is most likely the weakest region. But Virtus Pro has had experience playing against some of the best teams. They do. And I think that there's something to be said for that. I think this is a bold take by me. I would not be surprised if Shopify Rebellion won this one, but I'm going to be a little bit bold. I'm going to say that Virtus Pro is going to take this 3-2. All right, let's move down here. Number. Thank you. All right, moving on. We have Ninjas and TSM. I think this one is not going to be close. I think that out of this bracket right here, I think the Ninjas is the best team. Regardless of if you think that they don't have a clutch factor, if you think that they're going to struggle a little bit on the world scene, which I do think there may be a factor there. I think that just from a skill level perspective, talk about Europe being the highest level of competition. And Ninjas, even though they have faltered, they have shown that they are consistently a top 5, top 6 team in Europe. I do rate that higher than the number 2 Oceanic scene, or number 2 Oceanic team, in TSM. I think this is going to be easy work for Ninjas, 3-0 Ninjas. All right. We have Gen G and Rock. This one's a difficult one. Let me reference. I have this all in notes right now. So this one's a tough one for me. Again, Rock is coming in with no major, no Worlds experience. Gen G, Justin's a veteran. Magic Bear and Cheese are veterans. They've been in regional scenes. They've done that. And they've shown to be a somewhat consistent team in North America. I'm gonna make another bold prediction here. I'm actually gonna say that this is gonna go 3-2 Rock. I gotta say, eye test, I was really, really impressed with Rock. I really was. And in the same way that I mentioned that Zen didn't have the jitters because of the level of Europe's competition in the regional scene. Even though I would say Mina is a step below Europe. I I was really impressed. And I think that the Mina scene is a lot better than people were giving it credit for, especially right now. It's been known to be a minor region. I gotta tell you, based on what I've seen, and also just based on the performances of both Falcons and Twisted Minds, I really do believe, give it a year. And I think that there are very valid conversations that Mina should be considered a major region. I very much believe that. I think that the days of just North America and Europe being the two major regions are going to be gone, if not after this season, very soon. I think MENA is going to be the third major region. And I think that that's going to be shown here. I think that Rock is really strong. I think they come in with a lot of confidence. I think that the MENA competition has been really, really good. And I think that Gen G, a team that does have veterans, but a team that has, and I hate to say this, I really do, but a team that has a older player in Justin. I think that Justin is, his shooting is not in question, his composure is not in question. But when you're talking about, and this is, I'm really getting into like, I'm kind of metagaming this a little bit. I 100% will admit that. But Justin's been in the scene for a long time, and there's no denying that as you get older in video games, you're gonna slow down. You can't deny it. It's just how it works. And I think that a team as speedy, as young, as hungry as Rock, I'm going with Rock. I am. I really am. I think it's a bold prediction, but that's what my heart is telling me, and I'm going to go with it. Okay. Moving on to Virtus Pro versus NIP. I think that this is just like the TSM matchup. I think this is a cakewalk for Ninjas. I really do. This is a 3-0 Ninjas. I talked so much about Rocket Gen G. I don't feel much of a reason to talk about the Ninjas vs. Pro series. Ninjas just the better team. That's all there is to it. All right, we'll move on to lower quarters. We have MIBR versus FUT. I actually do rate FUT in this matchup more than MIBR, just based off of the major and the previous World Cup performances. I'm gonna give this one. I'm gonna give this one 3-1 actually. To FUT. I think that Raze Bull is a good enough player that they're gonna get one off of them, but I think FUT is gonna have this. I do. Next one we've got Rebellion versus TSM. This is gonna be a bounce back one for Rebellion. That's gonna be I had them taking a difficult loss against Virtus Pro. I think this is gonna be a bounce back. I think Reddles is gonna have that team in shape. I think that this is gonna be this is going to be the experience that Wavy and Two Piece are really going to need. This is going to be a little bit of a confidence boost for them. And maybe not so much because it's TSM. No offense to TSM. Super happy that, they made it this far. I haven't watched them all that much. I'm not trying to bash TSM. I just think that Rebellion are going to have their number. I think this is Rebellion 3-0. Going to lower semis. This is FUT versus Virtus Pro. We saw this in the previous World Cup, and this went 3-2 to FUT. I think it's going to go the same way. I really do. Virtus Pro is got some imports from Europe. I think that they are solid, but I think that FUT has only been getting better. I really, really rate some of the players on FUT. I think it's going to be close. I think that FUT is going to have them again 3-2. This is Gen G versus Shopify Rebellion. This one I've been going back and forth on. These are two teams that know each other very well. Even for regional matchups. These two teams know each other so well. And this is like the most familiar that you can get. Like Reddles and Justin swap places. The only new factor between these teams is Wavy. But I really do rate Reddles in these scenes. I do think that the direction that Shopify Rebellion is going with Reynolds, Two Piece, and Wavy shows a lot of promise. But when I look at Magic Bear and when I look at Cheese, the amount that they have played together, that familiarity, I think really lends itself to Worlds and to Majors. And I think that Justin's experience matches, if not exceeds, Reddle's experience. I do think it's going to be close, but I am going to give this one I'm actually going to give this one 3-1 to Genji. I don't think it's going to be a 3-2. I do think that Genji's just a bit more of a polished team. I know there's been some time between the World Cup and now, but I don't think that it's enough time. I don't think the Rebellion's had enough tests that they're going to be able to meet the polish and the skill level that Genji shows. So I'm going to give that 3-1 to Genji. All right. So that is our plans right there. We can move on to the main event. All right. Starting off uppers quarterfinals and Group B. So we have Falcons versus... Excuse me, this is Group B. Let me actually move over to Group A. We're going to start on Group A. Excuse me for that. Group A, Carmine Corps versus FUT. FUT had a good run to make it this far. I really do think so. Super happy with how they have improved as an APAC team. I think that that's a really good sign for APAC as a region. But it's Carmine Corps. It's Carmine Corps. I don't think I have to say any more than that. It's 3-0 Carmine Corps. Next one, we have GK versus Ultimates. This one's going to be a bold prediction by me. GK has shown a lot of really good promise. Their finals performance, making it to the finals in the World Cup, really impressive. GK has had some really, really good runs. But when I look at stylistic matchups, when I look at who GK has done well against who Ultimates has done well against, GK seems to do really well against teams that play with a bit more structure. You're talking about a Carmine Corps who they have beat, a Vitality who they have beat. I think that GK does really, really well when they are the fastest team on the pitch. I think that Joyo is a phenomenal player and someone whose creativity and skill, he just finds a way to pry open strong defenses. With Archie as a backup, Archie's been such a great duo with Joyo. Archie fills in so many of the gaps. They just have really good chemistry. If Oli's playing well, I think Oli's kind of the X factor. Not to say that Oli's a bad player, but you know what you're going to get from Joyo. You know what you're going to get from Archie. But I'm saying all this to say that when I look at the teams that GK has done well against, and then I look at the teams that Ultimates has done well against, I think that Ultimates actually does really well against teams that play fast and loose. A team like GK that plays with a lot of freedom. I think Ultimates actually does really well against those teams. I really do. And I just have a feeling on this one. I have a feeling that Ultimates is going to pull the upset here. I'm going to give it, it's going to be close. I think this is going to be a really, really fun matchup. I'm going to give this 3-2 Ultimates. I really am. Next, we have Dignitas versus Rock. I am really excited for this matchup. I think that if this happens, I think this is going to be a really, really fun matchup. I was talking about how much I rated Rock, but Dignitas has given me enough reason to think that they are going to perform to their skill level, to their class, to their experience. I do think it's going to be close. We're going to give it 3-2 Dignitas. All right, moving down into the bracket. Moving down into the bracket, we have Furia and Wildcard. I have not been impressed with Furia recently. I I really haven't. I'll talk a bit more about that later. I have been less impressed by Wildcard, to be honest with you. So I am going to give it to Furia. Wildcard's a really fun team, but I do not think that they have what it takes to beat Furia. I just don't. All right. We'll move on to upper semifinals. In the same way that I think that Ultimates does really well against teams that play fast and loose. Carmine plays fast. They do not play loose. They do not. Carmine is an extremely disciplined, structured team. They are there to choke you out. They're there to absolutely dominate the midfield. I think it is a horrendous matchup for Ultimates. I think that this is easily, and I mean easily, I think this is the 3-0 Carmine Core. I really do. I not to spoil anything, I think Carmine Core is one of the best teams in the world. I think they're going to show it. I think that they are absolutely determined. I think that, yeah, I really do. I really do rate Carmine Core in this matchup, 100%. Dignitas versus Furia. Yeah, I've not been impressed with Furia. I think that in years past, when Furia made really good runs, I think that Furia was doing so well because of the skill level that they showed and the speed that they played at. When you watch Furia like 2 years ago, Furia felt like the fastest team in the world. And they really dominated pitches because of that. The only issue that Furia was having was that they just played too reckless at times. They really did. But the speed, the aggression that Furia showed was really a sight to behold, and Yan was looking like the best player in the world. He was. This past year, I haven't seen that. And I don't think that it's a knock. I don't think that Furia has gone down in their level. I think that the rest of the world is caught up. Yan is no longer one of the best players in the world. That spot belongs to a lot of different players. I'm not even sure that I would put Yan in top 10 at this point in time. And with Furia's playstyle, they've been trying to dial it back a little bit. I think they've been trying to play a little bit less aggressive. But I think that playstyle is it's really difficult to shift that with a team that's so used to playing so fast, to have all that aggression, to have all that speed. But now that speed is getting matched. And not only is that speed getting matched, but they're playing against teams that are just more disciplined, that have a better structure. And I think that's the reason that we've seen the drop. I don't think the Fury has been underperforming. I think the rest of the competition has just gotten that much better. And Dignitas is just a better team at this point in time. I really do feel that way. I am going to give this one 3-1 Dig. All right. We'll go ahead and move over to the lowest quarters in Group 1. This is FUT versus GK. FUT, great run. Again, this is a 3-0 GK. GK is just the better team. It's, yeah, the better team, better players. That's all I have to say about it. Next, we have Rock versus Wildcard. I think this is just going to be a fun one. Very, very speedy teams. I think there's going to be a lot of fun ones. I think Wildcard's going to get one game. I think they're going to pop off. They're going to have their moment. Fever's going to do something crazy. Banana Head's going to do something crazy. It'll be one fun match. They'll have a really good time. Maybe they'll bring back the really fun, the fun car toppers and the fun little presets. But yeah, this is going to be Rock. I really do. I think Rock is hungrier. I think they're more confident than Wildcard is. I think they want it more. I really do. That's what I've seen. I don't think that I think Wildcard are here for a good time, but not a but not a long time. That is the vibe that I've gotten from Wildcard, especially over the World Cup. And yeah, I think Rock wants it more. I think that they are more talented, more disciplined. I think they got it. Moving on, Furia versus GK. I've already talked a lot about Furia. I've talked about. I do think that GK again plays better against more structured teams. I think it doesn't matter. I think GK is just better. They are. I'm actually going to call this as a sweep. I think this is going to be 3-0 GK. I really do. Ultimates versus Rock. I think that this is going to be the matchup of the day. I really do. I'm really excited to see this matchup. I've been rating Rock really high when it comes to this, but just like the matchup between Ultimates and GK, I think that Ultimates are going to, with their experience, with their skill level, I think that this is actually going to be a moment in which experience really matters and composure really matters. I am going to give this to Ultimates. I think it's going to be a really fun series. Ultimates 3-2. Okay. Let's go ahead and move over to Group B. Let me try out here. Falcons versus Gen G. Falcons one of the best teams in the world. I don't have much to say about this one. I think it's 3-0 Falcons. Vitality versus Space Station. I have here. Yeah. So if you watch the World Cup, you saw the beatdown the Vitality put on Space Station. I think that I will say this. I think that Space Station is been getting a lot of flack for that. And some of it is definitely them shooting themselves in their own foot with just completely going AFK for over half of like the final game. But I will say I was very impressed with what the players had to say afterwards. All of them apologized. They made no excuses. And I was actually quite impressed with the win the Space Station had over Twisted Minds. And I am going to rate them a little bit more going forward. But this is going to be Vitality. I think Vitality is just the better team. They have the better players. They have the better structure. They've been with a better level of competition. I think it's just too much. I do actually really rate Space Station. I rate their play style. I think their players are young and have a lot of potential. This, I think it might be close, but I am going to give this to Vitality. I'm actually going to go 3-2 Vitality on this one. I think it's going to be closer than people are going to imagine. NRG versus NIP. NIP is definitely in the tougher region. I do really enjoy Nas as a player. I have watched Nas quite a bit in the 1v1 scene. I think he is a fantastic 1v1 player. I do not rate Nas quite as highly as other people do, specifically in 3v3. I couldn't, when I watch NIP play and I see the mechanical potential of Nas, for sure. I think a lot of people see that. But I think that the playstyle that he is the best suited at is more of a 1v1 playstyle. I think he works a lot better with space. He works a lot better when he can just read one other person. I think that the speed of the game sometimes gets a little bit away from Nas. And I think that all the different decisions when it comes to playing 3v3, like to compare Nas to like a Radosin, right? I think Nas, if you look at Nas in a vacuum, is a better player than Radosin. But I think that Radosin's playstyle is better suited for threes than Nas is. Now, this doesn't have that much of a bearing on because they're both on the same team. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I really think that even though ninjas as individual players have a lot of potential, I think that there are some flaws, that there are some weaknesses there. And I think that NRG is a more complete threes team. I am going to give this one 3-1 NRG. Okay. We have Twisted Minds versus Secret. I actually really enjoy Secret. I think, personally, they have been the best team out of South America. And I think that actually a lot of that has to do with their play style. I talked about how Furia, their play style so much predicates on being faster than everyone, being more mechanical and being more aggressive, and how that doesn't translate well when you're going up against teams that are just better than Furia is at that. But Secret, their play style, they play a lot more structured, which I think really lends well. And I actually, based on what I've seen from Secret, I think that from an individual perspective, from a mechanical perspective, I think that they are underrated in that regard. I really do. I think that they have gotten better. I think that's the reason that they have had more consistent results over the World Cup and over the Raleigh Major. With that being said, I think that this is a nightmare matchup for Team Secret. I think the reason that Team Secret could not be Furia in the regionals is because Furia has a playstyle a lot like Twisted Mind's playstyle. And I would say that Twisted Minds plays that same playstyle, but they're even better at it. I really rate Nobo. I think that that player is absolutely fantastic. I would rate him top 5, at least top 10 players in the world. I really do rate him that highly. I think Rise, his veteran presence, his way to change up tempos is really good. Atomic has really stepped up. Yeah, I think that this is a really bad matchup for Secret. I would have rated them in other matchups. I think this is going to be 3-1 Twisted Minds. I really do. Okay. Moving on to the upper semis. Falcons Vitality, heavyweight matchup. We saw this for third place in the World Cup. It was a really, really close matchup. Falcons won it by a hair. I think Falcons are going to win it by a hair. Again, I really do. I think Falcons is the better team. I really do. I think that Zen is going to be the best player on the pitch. I don't think it's going to be enough. 3-2 Falcons. All right. We now have NRG and Twisted Minds. NRG, a team that struggles against a team like a Vitality, like a K-Court, a team that has more structure, has a more polished play style. I think NRG has a really favorable matchup against teams that play fast, that play a bit loose. NRG is really, really good at counterpunching. They have a defense that is really difficult to break through. And it's not something that they're not going to give up easy goals, and they're not going to give up fast goals. And if you're going to score on NRG, you have to do what Vitality does and what KC does. You have to choke them out. It has to be a death by 1,000 cuts. You are not going to, in my opinion, you're not going to beat NRG by knockout punches. And that's what Twisted Minds brings on the offense. I think they bring out knockout punches with crazy mechanics from Nobo, from crazy mechanics and plays and outplays from Rise, from the speed that they play. I think NRG is going to be able to handle that. I do think that they beat Twisted Minds 3-1. So we have Falcons at NRG that qualify. Let's move on to the lowest quarters. We have Genji and Space Station. I spoke a little bit about how much I rate Space Station. I do think that Genji is a good team. Again, I talked about the chemistry between Magic Bear and Cheese. Justin, he's a good player. Like, he knows his place. His shooting has never been in question. His shooting's absolutely immaculate. Justin has great highlights. I think that this is the end of the road for Genji. I actually really do. I really rate Space Station's play style. I really, really rate how aggressive, in your face they play. I really like the off-ball pressure. I think that their play style translates so much better into the world scene. And I think that with the falters that they had in the World Cup and in the way that they rebounded from that, from a very, very embarrassing series against Vitality, they turned around and beat Twisted Minds. They've gained a little bit of confidence from that. I think that they're young kids. I think they've learned some lessons when it comes to this. I think it's going to be close. I'm actually going to give this one to Space Station. I have some belief that Space Station is going to give us a bit more than they've given us in the Raleigh Major and in the World Cup. I think this is going to be their breakout tournament. NIP versus Secret. NIP has the better players. I think you cannot doubt that. I think Radosin is a world championship winner, and for a reason. I think Nas is a fantastic talent, and I'm trying to remember their last player, and I should know. Their last player I want to say is Oski. Oski is their final player. I do think Oski is quite good. But I still just have question marks about this team. I do. Like I mentioned before, I think that there is some issues with cohesion with this team. And I do think that there have been question marks about Nas when it comes to clutch moments, about Nas not playing within the team. I have not seen that issue with Team Secret. I just haven't. I think Team Secret has had awesome pop-off moments, and they've also shown a level of composure in majors and in world championships. And this is NASA's, even though they are in Europe, the region with the highest level of competition. I think that this moment right here is going to be too much for NIP. I think it's going to be close, but I do think it's going to be 3-2 Secret. All right, we move on. This is going to be Twisted Minds versus Space Station. We saw this matchup in the World Cup. Space Station beat Twisted Minds. I think a lot of people consider that to be a fluke and consider Twisted Minds to be the better team who underperformed. This is going to be the first time that I mention some worries that I have about Twisted Minds. And this is 100% me getting a bit more into the meta and maybe projecting a little bit. But I remember a team, and some of the people here may remember a team that had the three, I would argue, the three best players in the world. And that team, at the end of the day, when it mattered most, underperformed. And that team was former Team Queso, turned into Team Moise, Rise, Joyo, and Vatira. And I remember when Vatira left that team, and one of the things that Vatira mentioned was a language barrier between them. Vatira, mainly French-speaking person. You're talking about Joyo and Rise, who are English as their first language. And this is 100%, this is so speculative by me. But when you're talking about a Nubo, whose English is not his first language, and you're talking about a Rise, English first language, Atomic, I'm actually not so sure. I would have to do research on that, research that I'm not going to do. But I will say that I think there's something to be said at the end of the day about playing with people who share the same language with you and playing with people who are in the same region as you are. Rise and Atomic are imports. Nubo is a product of MENA. I think this has been really good experience for Nubo. Nubo. I keep on mispronouncing his name. I want to say it's Nubo. And a lot of people get his pronunciation wrong, so I don't feel too bad about that. I think this has been a really good experience for him, being with some pros from like the biggest region and getting that experience. I personally, after this, would really like to see Nubo play with some people from MENA, because there are some really good talent. I would not be surprised if Nubo ended up making a team with some of the teams from like Rock. I don't know a ton about Rock, but from what I've seen, MENA has some really, really good players coming up. I'd really like to see Nubo the face of a bunch of young players, a lot of young, hungry, fast players. I think you'll be able to unlock Nubo a lot more when it comes to that. But I don't think that we're going to get the full potential of what Nubo can do as a player and the full potential of a 3v3 team with Nubo on it. No offense to Rise and to Atomic. I think both of them are fantastic players, especially Rise. I think Atomic has really stepped up. But I compare that to a space station that's already shown that they can beat them. A space station who in the World Cup, I do not think that they have shown their full potential. I am going to give this one to Space Station. I think it's going to be a really, really fun matchup. I'm going to give this one to Space Station 3-2. Vitality Team Secret. This is the end for Team Secret. This is no knock on them. I think Team Secret, again, has been a very improved team. Vitality is a step above. Vitality, the three players on Vitality are just better. Their team is better. Their structure is better. The competition in Europe is better. I don't think this is going to be close. I think this is going to be 3-0 Vitality. Space Station Vitality qualifying through. Okay, let's move on to upper quarters. This is going to be KC versus NRG. This is going to be best of 7. Last World Cup, KC absolutely dominated. I see no reason to doubt KC now, especially against NRG. I don't think that, compared to some of the other teams that are still here, I don't think that NRG is going to give them the best challenge. I think that is going to come later. I'm going to give this 4-2 KC. Falcons versus Dignitas. This is a rematch of the Raleigh Major, and it did not look close then. Falcons, I thought, made pretty quick work of Dignitas. Jorius popped off, if I remember, from the Raleigh Major, but Falcons are the better team with the better players. I do not think this one is going to be close. I'm going to give this 4-1 Falcons. Move on to lower round one. We have GK versus Space Station. Space Station, I have rated up to this point. I do think that at this point in time is going to be too much for Space Station. I really do. I think that the emotion of making it this far is going to be too much for them. I think that when you look at the experience level of GK, the quality, the composure, I think it's just going to be too much. I'm going to give this one 4-2 GK. Vitality versus Ultimates. In the same way that I think Ultimates does really well against teams that also try to play fast, I think that they struggle against teams that have a bit more structure. And I could be misremembering here. Like, Ultimates has given NRG a hard time. They certainly have. And Ultimates has struggled against Space Station. But this is a tough one. This actually is... I'm going to give it to Vitality, just because in general I think Vitality has performed better than the Ultimates. I think that there are some question marks when it comes to the Ultimates in general. I am going to give this one to Vitality. It's going to be Vitality 4-2. All right, moving on to lower quarters. NRG versus GK. I'm giving this one to NRG. I am. I think we already had this matchup before, and I said that NRG is going to win. I think NRG is going to win again. I think that the only situation in which I see GK winning is if you get the peak of peak GK, and we've seen it in flashes, but the peak of peak GK, and we get a not peak NRG. And I think NRG is going to come extremely motivated, extremely practiced. They've had some time between this and the World Cup, some time a little bit to decompress and get away from the game. I think that they're bored, and I think they might be a little bit burnt out. I think they're going to be focused and ready for this. I'm giving this one 4-2 NRG. Dignitas versus Vitality. These are teams that are very used to playing against each other. This is an EU matchup. This is a really interesting one. I think Dignitas has so much potential for pop-off plays. I do really rate Jorius. I really rate Stizzy. I think that his outplay potential is really good. Big fan of Jack. Jack has always been a fantastic glue guy, a fantastic team player. He's never going to be the guy that has huge pop-off plays, and if he is, you better watch out, because if Jack is popping off, then it is all over. I really mean that. But I think that Jack is super underrated. I don't think that Jack gets enough flowers. Any team that apparently Jack has been on, the players that he plays with have played better. That has been a universal case in almost every scenario, and there's a reason for that. You can look at Jack in a vacuum, but when you look at Jack when he plays on teams, he elevates his teammates, and that has been a consistent thing. I actually really rate Jack. And with that being said, with how close this matchup is, I really do have to look at, in this scenario, who is the best player on the field. And Monkey Moon's good. Monkey Moon is a multiple-time world champion. Exotic has shown world championship caliber as well. But Zen is going to be the best player on the pitch. If you watch World Cup, you saw it. Zen is going to be the best player. Even if Monkey Moon is faltering a little bit, even if Exotic is faltering a little bit, Zen is going to win this series. I really, in this specific series, Zen is not going to be denied. This is going to be 4-3 Vitality. I think that there are going to be a couple of pop-off goals by Zen during this series that are going to decide this. Not really a bold prediction. Zen has been known to pop off. But, yeah. All right, we get into the semifinals, and this is, I don't think that this is any bit of a surprise, especially with three of the teams. Maybe you have Vitality faltering a little bit sooner. But I think that these four teams have shown world-class potential, have been in top fours and multiple times. And yeah, this final might be a little bit boring, but a boring prediction, but I cannot deny the quality of these four teams. Falcons versus NRG. This has been at times has been a fantastic series, but at times has been an absolute beatdown by Falcons. And the close series that have happened when NRG has beaten the Falcons has been incredibly close. But I think that Falcons have made that leap to being a better player. I do think it's going to be really close. I am going to give it to Falcons, 4-3 Falcons. It's going to be a really fun matchup. All these are going to be really fun matchups, both semifinals performances. Carmine versus Vitality. As much as I think that Zin is the best player in the world, I also think that it could be argued that the number 2 best player, the number 3 best player, the number 4 best player are the 3 players on Carmine Core. Drawley, Vatira, and Atau it is a dream team. It really is. I'm not even, to be honest with you, I'm not even sure when you look at just a chemistry perspective, if you were to swap any of those players out with Zen, that the team is better. I'm not even sure that that's the case. Drawley, world champion, last season. Drawley has shown how well he can slot into systems while still being a standout player. I think that works really well with a system that is already so well in place between Vatira and Atau. They have been a fantastic duo. Vatira is the best third man in the league. The midfield presence, the reads, and the mechanics on top of that. Vatira has been fantastic. Atau, always a threat. It kind of feels like in any game that Atau is guaranteed one goal. Just one like double flip reset, like off the backboard, just beats everyone's sort of goal. It just seems to happen. And yeah, and the crazy part is that the two of them might not be the best player on the team. It might be Drawley, and that's scary and that's insane. I think Zen might be the best player on the pitch, but I think that Monkey Moon has shown some decline. And I think that Exotic, for all of his upside, Exotic has shown some weaknesses. I have not seen that weakness in KC. I've seen some small drops in competition against teams that are a bad matchup for them. I do not think Vitality is a bad matchup for them. I do think that they're going to get a couple of games, Vitality is. I think this is going forward to Carmine Core. Grand Finals, Falcons versus Carmine Core. I got to tell you, even though it was not the finals in the World Cup, the most recent tournament, when I saw this semifinals between Falcons and Carmine Core, that was the highest level of Rocket League I have ever seen. And I mean that genuinely. It was two heavyweights colliding. There was so much metagame that was occurring. There was so much nuance when it came to rotations. Just so many call-outs. I mean, it was a brick wall going up against a brick wall. When you saw a Carmine Core that was being pushed to the brink and a Falcons that was being pushed to the brink. 100%. These two teams this year, I think, are the two best teams. And I really do hope that we get this grand finals, because I do think that we will see the best Rocket League that we have ever seen. Ever. And I gotta say, I think that Rawas and Kalirs, you talk about potential for the top, the 2 to 4 being Vatira, Drawley, and Atau, but it could easily be argued that Rawas and Kalirs are in the top 3 best players. I really do rate them that highly. I think Rawas has been in that level sooner than Kalirs. I think Kalirs has made a humongous step up. In the way that Rawas has always been a stalwart on defense, I think Kalirs has made a leap as an offensive player, and is now shored up his issues when it comes to defense. But with that being said, and I hate to say this, I really do, because I really do rate this player. I actually do think the weak link is going to be TRK. And that's crazy to say. Insane to say, because it could be argued that TRK is a top 10 player. But it is not going to be enough in a lobby that has Rawas, Kulirs, Vatira, Atau, and Drawley. I just, and that's what I'm going to base it off of. I do think this is going to be an insane series. I think it's going to be the closest series. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But that one thing, and also just Carmine Corps just haven't lost much, man. They just haven't this year. And I know that there are some woes when it comes to Vatira performing on the world stage, but I think Vatira is so hungry, and I think that Vatira is ready to play his best Rocket League, and I think that his quote-unquote choking has been overrated in previous times in Worlds. I think this is Carmine Corps' year. I think they are so hungry for this. Vatira is so hungry for this. Atau so hungry for this. Drawley's got the experience. This is going to go 4-3 Carmine Corps. I really hope, again, we get this grand final. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to this World Championship in general. I think that this is going to be a fantastic World Championship. I think it's going to be the best World Championship the RLCS has ever had. It is going to be so difficult for me to not watch every single match that happens. But I have a life to live, and I'm going to make sure that I watch a lot of it. But yeah, these are my predictions. Yeah, I hope that you found this to be enjoyable in some way. I'm not an expert. I'm not a pro when it comes to this, but I've watched this game enough that I think I have some good insight into it. And I hope that this was fun. This is fun for you to watch, as fun as it was for me to talk about it and to make it. With that being said, I'm gonna call it here. Thanks for tuning in if you tuned in, and ta-ta for now. All right, bye-bye.